Bonjour Anna and bienvenue à Timeless Talks. So welcome and thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yes, I have been doing French classes. You rubbed off on me with your prickly. So
Oh,
after
I'm so
14
glad.
years,
It's great, isn't it? It's really been helping me.
it is, I must say, I've only done two lessons and I'm really loving it. But I think it's time because I've been with my husband for 14 years and my French is basically as far as bonjour and bienvenue. So that's how far it goes.
Yeah,
So
I found too, like it's just really fun. It's similar to when I first moved here, like taking up something new, especially something that you've always wanted to do and just for whatever reason have put on the back burner, gives you this like new sense of excitement because it's very rare as adults that we pick up something completely new. We get
yes.
stuck in our routine in our day to day and we entertain these ideas about like I want to take ballroom dancing or I want to learn French, but we never. How rare is it that we actually
Yes.
pull the trigger? And when we do it, like it actually is so empowering in a lot of different ways that I always am loving anytime I can dive into something.
I think I'm reading my feelings wrong then because maybe it's then let me see it as empowering and excitement because it's like pure fear and anxiety every time I sign on for my session. So it's like, oh my God.
It can be intimidating, but you'll see the progress, and then that will be like, wow, look how far I've come. A year from now,
Yes.
you'll parler français and or at least franglais, which is what I prefer, and you'll feel very proud.
Oh, that's very true. So tell me, we're not here to chat French. Although hopefully a year from now we can do a podcast episode in French. It might be a short one, but it will be a French one. So tell me, firstly, your book's title, My Own Magic. If I didn't know you or follow you before I saw this book title, it's definitely a title I would have bought and read because I love the title and it just the title, not even looking at the cover. The cover is a completely different story. But the title alone gives you that sense of holy crap, I can do anything.
Oh, I love that. That's exactly what I want you to feel when you read the book and the story, and certainly when you finish it. So if you feel that way, just picking it up, that's all the better.
Well, yeah, great name though. So in this book, you reflect on self-discovery and healing post-divorce. How has your relationship with your past self evolved since writing the book? And what aspects of your story do you feel are still unfolding?
I think that in reaccessing any, and going back anytime you're like revisiting memories. And I was so lucky to have so much of it in actual writing because what we remember in our head versus like our own actual words that we
Yes.
put down on paper, and I have them going back to age 12, is really special
Wow.
because it helps you really reconnect with your older self and at the point or younger self, sorry, at the point
Yes.
where I was when my divorce first was happening and then I started writing this book. I was so like I had really lost that like joy and like silliness that I always had and this like
Okay.
really happy way of looking at life because I had been going through so much, kind of like silently struggling for a while. And when you're in a relationship that isn't allowing you to be 100% yourself, you keep changing yourself and altering yourself
Yes.
and really lost touch with that younger self. And going back and like reading my actual words, like especially from my first time ever being here with my sister when I was 18, my first time living here for a couple months during my semester, like it really reminded me a how much I love this city,
Yes.
b how much this city makes me, I think, my best self, like makes me feel inspired, makes me feel happy, makes me want to go out and do things, makes me want to try new things. And it just reminded me like that's who I always was, that's who I am. This relationship I've been in and what I've been going through has temporarily, cast this like dark shadow over that light and over that
Yeah.
sunshine, but like the clouds are gone and I can have that back now. And it really helped me reaccess that former self and find a way to honor that moving into this new chapter, which was scary in a lot of ways. It was a mix of scary and exciting. But it allowed me to reaccess the excitement part of it and like remember that, you know, who I was and what I had gone through before and how I thrive in different situations when they're new and challenging. And so it was a beautiful way to sort of honor my past self as I was moving forward to new self. And I think my story is always unfolding. You know, it's this
Yes.
year was of a year for me of like, okay, what comes now? Because I had all these dreams. I wanted to get here. I wanted to set up an apartment. You know, I wanted to write this book, and I did it all. And then this year, I was sort of a bit like, okay, now what?
What's
And I
next?
think, yeah, and I think that you know, your story is always unfolding. You're always changing. You're always reevaluating. I think that's part of life. And a good
Right.
lesson for me this year has been to not like force something needing to happen right away. You know, the logical next steps for me, I'm well aware I'm not actually wanting yet. Like
Okay.
I'm not ready to have a child yet. I'm not ready to get remarried. I'm not ready to, you know, whatever the next steps would be for someone logically at 36. Almost. I think I'm I always forget. I literally can't remember if I'm 30. It's I think I'm still 35, right? Um, but whatever those steps are, it's been a good lesson for me this year to just be like, I think because I got so in touch with who I was and what I wanted and tuning out what others thought post my divorce, that now I'm really in a place of just like, this has just been a year of like taking in everything that I achieved and being grateful for it, and you know, not always having to think about like, okay, what next thing do I need to be chasing? You know, have you seen those
Yes.
things going around that says like one of the things you have right now is something you used to pray about or dream about, you know, and like sometimes you actually need to just pause and live in the dream you succeeded in for a
Yes.
little bit before you're giving yourself some new goal and some new challenge and some new, you know, I feel like I'm okay with just letting it come naturally and figuring out what comes next for me and how things continue to unfold as they unfold. I don't feel the need to take any big step just because it's what most people would do.
Are you a very big manifester?
I think so. I mean, it's funny. I never thought of it that way. I feel like that's a relatively new like term, right? In the past couple
Yes.
of years. But when I look back, yes, I was always writing down dreams, making bucket lists. You know, for me, it's in form of bucket list, which I realized when I went back and reread these journals and blogs that like I always would write down these goals or these things I wanted to do. And something about that for me kind of helps me like really focus on it
Mm.
and make sure that it's like that those dreams are apparent to me so that they're on my mind and the things I'm doing on a day to day are to ultimately be arriving at those goals.
Yes. Because I know you do your yearly, you like to do your yearly, what do they call those things where you do like a, not a
Vision
bucket list,
board. Vision
vision
board.
boards.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, that's new. My sister was doing that. She's been doing that for a while. So I started doing it
Okay.
because she did. But that was really only since 2020. You know, she roped me into like, this is fun, do it with me. And I was like, yeah, okay. But when I look back, like I was always a more of like it makes sense. I'm a writer, right? Like I words
Yeah.
like I more than images for me, more powerful for me is writing things down on paper or saying them out loud, like to the universe. You know,
Yes.
my whole relationship so much about what the kind of person that arrived eventually when I met my boyfriend in October of 2020. I had spent that entire summer writing essays about dating because I was back in the dating, you know,
No
world,
way.
and I was reading them out loud on Instagram Live like once a week. And I was like extremely candid and just saying out loud to thousands of people how I felt about dating and what I wanted, and saying, this is ridiculous. I don't want a text message 3 days after our dates. Like, that's lazy. Like, what
Yes.
my is, you drop me off at home, slip a handwritten note in my mailbox, leave a croissant on my door. Like, I literally said these things. I said I want someone to ask me to dance. Like, I said I want a stranger to come up to me and ask me to dance.
Oh,
Um, and I mean, I know for sure my boyfriend now wasn't secretly watching and listening to these things.
I
He had
was
no idea.
just gonna ask you. I'm like, are you sure he didn't listen to those or watch those live?
It was like, can we just make sure that but like, my name wasn't on a mailbox. Like, he didn't know who I was. Um, and I mean, I think that's crazy, but I was saying it out loud, and I was also like, I had chosen it. Like, I think a part of manifesting is actually just making the choice for yourself that this thing is coming, or that
Yes.
this is what you want, or this is what you will get, and until you do, you won't stop. And
Mm.
that's what I was saying with my relationship. I was saying, I've been in a marriage that didn't work. I know what a relationship that doesn't work looks like. So until one arrives where these things that I now know for sure I need in someone, until that happens, like, I don't need to waste my time. And I wasn't entertaining it. And
Mm.
it was perplexing my girlfriends. They were thinking I was crazy, as I was like, sorry, he didn't send me flowers. And they were like, nobody sends flowers anymore. And I was like, well, I want someone who does, like, and I was just very like, no nonsense. I wasn't willing to settle until I really had what I wanted, because I knew that what I wanted was what I needed.
Yes. And look, you got what you wanted. So it was worth it.
Yeah, I think that's what manifesting is in a nutshell. Just like making the
Yes.
choice for yourself that it's what you are going to have, because it's what
Yes.
you deserve.
So you mentioned rediscovering your strengths and capabilities throughout your journey. Can you share a moment during your travels when you felt unexpected, a surge of like, whoa, empowering moment, or where magic, you love the word magic, or magic, in a place you hadn't anticipated? Like, is there a location you were standing somewhere because you've been all over the world? Was there a
Mhm.
moment through this whole rediscovering yourself that you were like, holy crap, this is it?
This is it. I mean, I would probably say there were several of those and under different circumstances, but maybe the most important one, um, especially in my book, was, when I got right after my divorce, I got a crazy, freelance job that I had applied for months before, that had to be a solo trip somewhere you'd never been. And I applied thinking, like, I can't even do this. Like, I can't, schedule wise, it wouldn't have worked. Like, my ex-husband and I had somewhere we had to
Yes,
be for his work at that period of time. And I was like, I'm not gonna be able to just like on a whim fly to Lisbon by myself for 3 days to do this job, even if I would get it. But I applied anyway, because I was just like, what do I have to lose? And maybe it'll just put my name in, and who knows. And I had forgotten about it. And then I get an email, like, I think within the week of my marriage ending, saying like, congratulations, you've been
no
selected.
way.
Your start planning your trip to Lisbon. And I was like, what? Um, and I was scared for a second, because I hadn't traveled alone in about 10 years, really. I used to do a lot on my own while I was traveling with my husband, because he wanted to do this and I wanted to
Yes,
do that. I would go off on my own all the time. But it's different when you're actually 100% alone, and sleeping alone and dining alone, and doing everything alone. And I was just a little bit afraid that I wasn't going to love it the same way that I used to, because I used to travel alone, that I met him. And I was worried that like going back to that was going to be scary or sad or lonely, especially because I wasn't in the best mindset at that point. And
yes,
I
of
went
course.
on that trip, and I spent the first day in Lisbon really with no agenda, no plan, which is like what I've always done. I didn't ever overplan. I didn't even used to have a working phone when I would travel by myself. I was 19 and I had like a flip phone, didn't have internet. And I spent it back in that like honoring old me, right? And about halfway through the day, I was like, I am so happy. and I, and
Oh,
I wasn't, I wasn't talking to anybody. I remember like all day I'd barely said a word and I was lugging around this tripod because I needed to get all my pictures myself for the first time. I didn't have, my ex-husband to bother and help me. And, I felt so empowered that I could just like set up this tripod and get everything I needed to get on my own. And I felt so empowered that I could still spend the day completely alone on my own with no agenda, figure it out and have a great time. And actually, I remember saying like, I'm so glad no one's with me. like
mm,
I wouldn't want anybody here. I certainly wouldn't want, that old relationship here. And there's not even a friend or a family member, despite how much I love them, that I wish was here with me right now. I'm supposed to be doing this by myself. And I'm so happy that I'm still happy doing this. And it really confirmed for me that like travel is healing for me. It's something that I really really innately deeply love and grow from. And is I was like, I'm on the right track because I had made the choice of like, I'm going to try to just see if I can do this full time. I wasn't sure that I could.
yes.
And this trip was like kind of the big first test of like, can this be a full-time job and will I even still enjoy it? And it was like a big, glowing yes, 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 yes all over the place. And that's why like that city is very very special to me because it's kind of where I feel I was like reborn in a way.
I remember reading that's actually in the book. So that makes sense that it was your magical, empowering aha moment. Um, because it was like the first major basically stepping into this new life that you have in front of you. So
Yeah,
wow.
and it confirmation that I was making the right choices,
Yes,
because I all of it felt very uncertain. I didn't know what to do in so many ways when my marriage ended. And so I was kind of trusting my gut as to like, I think this is what I should try. I think this will
mm,
work out. But of course I wasn't sure. And in so many ways, getting that job, going on that trip, having a great time, getting good content from it on my own, which I
yes.
had never really made me feel like, okay, yeah, I'm on the right track. Like I can do this. I should do this. I have to keep trying.
And I believe God sends you signs for things in your life, and that was obviously a big sign for you to be like, listen, yeah, this is hell a lot of scary, but you're gonna be okay. Look what happened. Doors are opening already.
It was even such a crazy sign. Like I believe the same thing. And when I looked back and tried to think what made me apply for that, it didn't make any sense. Like, I think that had been, it was months before that trip that I applied for that freelance job. And like I said, it didn't make any sense. I
Yes,
couldn't have gone. Had I still been married, I couldn't have done it. We were supposed to be in the UK on this like whirlwind tour for my ex-husband. And I was in charge of doing so much when we were on a tour like that. So there was no scenario in which I would have been able to be like, sorry, I have to go to Lisbon for a couple days because I got this freelance gig that basically doesn't pay anything, but I really want to do it. Like it would have never worked. But it was like ahead of time, something told me you should do this. And I was like preparing for this new life months before it even came into play.
no, it's crazy because I feel the same. I started doing Pilates like 4 months before my dad passed away. I didn't know what Pilates was. Like 10 years ago, it was all yoga was still the big rage. And I don't know why I decided to do Pilates. I got a lady to come to our house and I fell in love with it. And I firmly believe God put Pilates on my path because I signed up to do the teacher training course a week before my dad passed away. And I went into that and it was the most healing thing I could have ever done. So I believe, because I mean, if I didn't do Pilates or know anything about it, what would I have done?
Yeah.
So
It's what ended up helping you through a difficult time. And if you hadn't
exactly.
had that set up ahead of time, I mean, maybe you would have decided, okay, I need to try something new. Maybe this is the
Yes.
answer, but to already have that set up is such a different feeling. And yeah, I absolutely agree. Like what a
Mhm.
sign, what a gift
No,
for
it's
me.
amazing. Your book discusses the challenge of reclaiming your identity. How do you maintain that sense of self while living in a city as incredible and dynamic as Paris? And have you developed a daily ritual that helps you stay grounded? I love your morning rituals though, like your stories when you pick up your little motivational card and put on your ABBA or whatever music. I'm like, I'm all for this every morning. Come on, Anna. So,
Yeah,
what
I
are
think
your rituals?
it's funny. My rituals are, silly from a total outsider's perspective without understanding the why as to why I'm doing it. So, but I think that that very much helps me keep in touch with me. And I love that question actually because your sense of identity is really challenged as an expat. You are all day, changing your language, you are changing your default culture, your default customs, and you have to adapt in so many ways. It's your duty to adapt when you decide to uproot yourself and put yourself in a new place. Like
Yes,
you have to learn and understand and respect what the norms are there and adapt in many ways. In France is very different from my default. It's much more of a low key, calm uh, way of life, where I'm much more like energy, go, go, fast. Everything here is a little slower paced. Nobody here, like I talk loud and my voice might go like in 12 different levels, like in one sentence. And that is not the norm. I tend to smile at strangers when I'm walking down the street and want to just like break out into a dance and a song, and that is not the norm. um, and in some ways I've always felt like I said this in my book. I remember that Paris kind of like really made my differences apparent to me for the first time, because when you do uproot and you put yourself in a new place where your norms aren't the norm, you suddenly realize like, oh whoa, these things are what make me me, because those things are challenged more than they would be in
yes,
your natural setting. um, and I think that there have been some things I've had to adapt to, but it's actually made me realize like the parts of me that I really love and don't want to change. Like I know it's not normal to smile at people here, but like smiling's my favorite. Like I'm never going to give that up. And so even though it's not the norm and it's not the French way, I'm like I need to always maintain that like friendly Midwesterner that I am at heart,
yes,
and keep myself open and keep myself optimistic. That's another huge change. Like the resting mindset in France is tends to be a bit more negative. Like the default is to like go to the negative until you have a reason to be positive, and that's very different from me, right? I like live in the positive
that's
until I have
tough
a reason to
though.
be negative. And so that's challenging, but it almost is like you kind of have to like daily fight to keep who you are. And I like that in a lot of ways, because it kind of really makes you like work at it every single day,
Yes,
and it
and
reminds
it
you
makes
like,
you, yes, it makes you love and appreciate who you are even more.
yeah, I mean it's hard because other people don't love and appreciate those things about you, right? It's
Uh,
polarizing. Like when I met my boyfriend, I remember he was like, he was like, I love Americans, like you're so happy, you're so smiley, like you have such good energy. But like that, to some people here, that is, it can be a negative thing. It's not always a default of like, oh, I'm going to appreciate that thing about that person that makes them very different. I mean, that's anywhere. You're either someone who like celebrates differences or is,
yes,
free of them. But it's definitely made me realize what makes me me, and realize like what things, just like my relationship, what things I can't trade away, because if I do, I'm not me anymore.
yes.
And the
And you're
things I
back at
learned
square
in
one.
my relationship I couldn't trade away, and there's things I've learned in France I can't trade away, because if I give that away, I'm not me. And I have to be able to be me in the midst of something I really love. They have to coexist, whether that's a relationship or a place or a job. I have to be able to be me.
And it's tough because society today doesn't like, it's almost like they frown upon people who are really 100% being themselves and true to who they really are.
I think it's yeah, I mean, I feel like it's being more and more celebrated, but definitely it is it's kind of easier in a way, right, to deal with someone who is just adapting, because someone
True.
who's really 100% just being them challenges people who aren't okay with doing that yet. And it makes, it makes you uncomfortable. It's like those things that say,
Yes,
that is going to bother a lot of people, but keep shining anyway. It's that true I am who I am, unapologetically, respectfully, but unapologetically,
yes,
make people feel very uncomfortable who don't have the courage or the awareness, or haven't done the work to be able to do that. Because I think it hits a nerve, right? It hits a nerve of like,
mm,
I'm not able to just be what my 100% authentic self, and that person is. And and that can make people uncomfortable.
true. And I mean, I'm a very loyal person, so if you get me on your side, I'm super loyal till the end, until you screw me over. But I always tell people I meet, like, one thing you have to know with me, I'm like an open book. Like, Cedric always tells me, people can read your face. I'm like, I can't control the face, unfortunately. I try very hard, but I can't. And I always laugh and joke and I say, but that's why I only have 5 friends, because those are the 5 friends that like take me as I am and accept me the way I am. And those are the only ones I need in my life. So
That's so
it's
important
true.
though. And I mean, if more people were okay with that, I'm very similar. I have a small group of people that I really would that I really feel like I would rather be with that person than just be on my own. Because the
Yes,
second I'm with someone, whether it's a friend or a work situation or a relationship, where I suddenly feel like, oh, I can't say that, or I shouldn't do that, or I'm worried that they're going to take that the wrong way, or I have to change some bit of me, or I don't feel cool enough to be here, or I don't, whatever it is, the second I start to feel like that, I'm just like, that I don't need to be here, actually.
yes,
Like
red flags.
if something about being in, I also, in my book, I remember saying you have to separate the way the way you feel about someone from the way that person makes you feel.
Oh my God,
So
that's the
there
quote I
are
was
plenty
gonna
of
tell you.
people, really.
It's highlighted in front of me.
I really like, right? Like there's people I meet and I'm like, that person is so cool. I really like them.
Yes,
But then if I spend some time with them and I realize I walk away from those encounters, or in those encounters, something about being around, being in their presence, being in their energy, having a conversation ultimately makes me feel weird or bad, or, something about myself, then that's probably not a good fit for a relationship of any
yes,
kind, right? Like, so why would I force it? Like, I can just stick to the people that really are comfortable being around 100% normal me, and make me feel like I can be that version of me.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of, especially women, men as well, I assume. I'm not like saying, but I've noticed. Well, me personally, I'm very good with following my intuition, my gut, and I very quickly pick up if someone is a major red flag or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's a
that's
very, very good thing.
it comes with age and practice, and and also just being tuned into what your gut says. I think so much of the time we tune our own gut out.
Out.
We lower the volume on our thoughts and what our like gut and heart and mind are really trying to tell us. And the more you turn that volume up instead of turn that volume down, the easier it becomes to honor it, because you have to remember, like, yourself better than
Yes.
anybody else. And the deeper we can get to know ourselves, and the more we can really get to appreciate who that 100% version of ourself is,
Mm.
uh, the easier it becomes then to understand, to have that red flag be like bright red, or to have that gut feeling be really strong, or to have your heart tell you like, I don't, this feels good or this
Yeah.
doesn't feel good. And then know that you should trust that, you should act on it.
I'm talking about trusting your instincts. So you write about trusting your instincts during your travels quite a lot. Is there a time when following your intuition that it led you to make a decision that changed the course you were on in your life in a positive way? Because everyone always goes to the negative that something happened to you, but I want to see in a positive way.
That's funny. I actually can't think of a negative. I thought you were gonna say like something, and then it just like it all went wrong, and you regret it. And I was like, nothing.
No.
Um, I think that it's all been. I mean, that has been travel for me in a nutshell. Is like making a decision and then watching how it impacts me positively. And whether that's because I was exposed to something I didn't know about, and it either like was very enlightening because it taught me something about the world that I didn't know, or it taught me something about myself that I didn't know, or a good mix of both. There's so many passions I now have and things I love that had I not traveled and said, trusted some gut instinct to say like, yes, I do want to see that, or I do want to do that, or I do want to join that trip, that like it wouldn't have, I wouldn't be here. It wouldn't,
Yes.
whatever
Okay.
current, even like some of the trips I talk about in my book, the retreats I started going on, like that was a new venture essentially, to like travel
Yes.
in a group. Not my thing. I'm not a group traveler. To me, like the more cooks in the kitchen, like the more likely that my experience isn't going to be what I want it to be, right? Because you have to
Yeah.
compromise. You're on a trip with 12 strangers. You're obviously not going to have as much control over what you do and where you go and how you spend your time as you want. And I had always traveled solo. So, like, venturing into group travel, especially with strangers, was like, this could really go wrong. But boy, like what I learned from those was like, I really enjoy, of course, meeting new people, but I knew that. What I didn't know was I enjoy leading. Like on both, in all of those scenarios, I had been in like some position of, power. Like,
Yes.
I was in charge of something, of the group. I was doing itinerary. I was in charge of photos or content. And I liked the responsibility and the ability to be like, I'm going to help make this trip better because of what I've learned, or what I am seeing, or the advice I can provide. And I didn't know that about myself. When I was working in my like 9 to 5 job in New York, I remember they wanted to promote me to like manager or something of like my sales division. They're like, what do you think about being sales manager? And I was like,
Mm,
I didn't want
not
it.
for me.
No, I don't like being in charge of other people. Like, I'd much rather just do me. Like, just keep doing my sales, keep my clients. I don't want to be in charge of how is everybody's sales going, and who do I need to push, and who
Yes.
do I need to recommend, and who do I need to help. Like, I was like, just let me do me. Like, that is not my skill set. But it was funny. Like, it is my skill set, just in something that I'm passionate about, right? Not something that I was just
Exactly.
doing to survive.
Yes, that was what I was just going to tell you. It's obviously you weren't in the right career at that moment, that you're flourishing in the leadership role in something that you love, which is traveling. So in
Yeah.
your book, you've been vulnerable about loss and discovery, and you've had a few hectic years, the last 4 years. If you could leave readers with a single question to ask themselves after reading your book, what would that question be and why?
I would say, like one deep question to ask themselves, maybe like what part of you do you is missing, or like what part of you do you miss? Because we give up little pieces of ourselves, you know, for various things, for
Yes.
jobs, for relationships, for places we live, for friendships, for family. We trade things away. And when you go back and reaccess everything you used to love and do and be, it, it can be really powerful to help you figure out, what are my strengths, what is my magic, what is the thing that I can use as fuel to believe in myself and have confidence in myself to step forward and really like start creating this dream life that I want. And I think a lot of it is reaccessing those passions, or those parts of us that we felt really good about, or that really made us 100% us, but it got traded away along the way, at some time.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't even really realize you traded it away until you go back and really look and dig and take that inventory. But I had this one uh one exercise I did in one of the retreats I was on in Palm Springs that I write about, where we had to just write open a piece of paper and write a note to our former selves. And I think that's what started, I'd never done any exercise like that. That whole retreat for me was very like, you know, I wasn't used to like these like, for lack of a better word, like hippie-ish, LA type things. I was much more like no nonsense New Yorker. Um, but I was like, I don't want to write this note to my former self or my child self or whatever it is. But I sat down to do it and just like eyes filled with tears. And like all I could do was write like, dear former self. And the only words I got down were just, I miss you, before
Oh,
I closed the notebook that we're writing in, and found an excuse to get up and start doing something else. But it
now
was
you're gonna make me cry.
but it was like, I hadn't realized how much I wasn't the same person anymore, and how much I really missed that version of me that I always was before this relationship really changed that and kind of took it away. So I think that could be a really powerful question to ask yourself, of like, what do you miss most about yourself? What is there anything that you really miss about either what you used to love, or who you used to be, or um you know and it has to be like you, right? It can't be, oh, I miss
Yes.
that person, or oh, I miss I miss living in New York City. Like it needs to be something about you. Like, I miss how
Like
ambitious New York City used to make.
personal.
I every day I woke up there, I was just filled with this like ambition and this excitement, and it made me this really ambitious version of myself. um, I think those are really important questions that we actually all should ask ourselves. Like your
Almost on
little yearly
a
annual
yearly
review.
question. Yes.
I kind of
Check
do a little
in.
like annual review on my birthday most years. Not necessarily intentionally, but you're thinking about the year that passed and what happened and how you've grown, and you're another year older, and maybe it's a good birthday exercise. Like, just do a little annual review of like, is there anything I really miss about myself I need to tap back into?
Some reflection. I remember when I finished your book, because I was, uh, the first time we got I got onto an aeroplane, I was 7 years old. And I'll never forget, we went to Germany as a family. And the moment I got onto that aeroplane, I remember clearly the flight attendant came to talk to us because they're always so friendly with kids. And I looked at my mom and dad, I said, oh, I want to be what she is. And truth Bob, that never changed, eh? My whole school, like childhood, never changed. Always wanted to. It turned into becoming a pilot eventually. Now I would love to do it, but now that I've got kids, I'm like petrified of becoming a pilot. It's like this fear. I'm like, oh my God, that's like a very intense job to now jump to, or something to do, or hobby. But
Yeah.
I did it and I loved it because it was like that travel bug bit me very early on in life. And after getting married, obviously we traveled quite a lot, me and Cedric. We were very blessed to travel quite a bit, but we traveled in South Africa a lot. So because my husband's obsessed with safaris and nature, so we would do that a lot. But when I finished the book, I looked at Cedric and I was like, baby, I'm sorry. I know I said this a few years ago, but every 2 years we're changing destinations because I love South Africa and I love a safari, but holy crap, I can only see so many animals. So I told him next year we're going to Paris because I've been to Paris once. That was in
Yay.
2012. So I told him that's the first place I want to go back to next year. And he was like, are you for real? It's like, yes,
I guess.
again. Yeah.
Paris.
No, but I'm not the same person I was 12 years ago. So I would love to re-experience it with the new Yulette.
It's like if you if you look at like, I have so many nieces and nephews right now. There's 7 nieces and nephews in my family. And I've spent so much time with them, especially this year. I was kind of like surrounded by kids nonstop all summer. And when you really just look at a kid and think about it in like the simplest terms, so whatever they just like identify they love, right? Sometimes it's so silly. Like it doesn't
Yes,
it's not what necessarily is popular or trending or what other somebody else thinks is cool or what their mom told them they should like. It's like these things hit you innately. My nephew sees a music video of Green Day and he's like, I love this. And it doesn't
I
maybe for him it
know.
makes sense like deep down, but whatever is hitting you and making you like, I feel like that's like your purest form of passion just like being lit up, right? Because the older we get, the world creeps in and other ideas creep in and we're influenced and we're challenged and we're maybe there's something we like but we're afraid to like it because it's weird to like it or it's not what
Yes,
other people we know like. You get into things because your partner's into it. I would have never watched sports on my own, but now I'm a huge football fan because my boyfriend loves football, so I have to love football to watch his tailgating parties. You hear these types of things all the time, and it's great. It's great to be introduced to new passions and constantly be challenging yourself. And but if you think back to like what did I really love as a kid, like what just innately with no explanation was I drawn to and just so entranced by. And when you're a kid, you go all in, like you
yes.
want the costume, you want to wear it every day.
Sky's the limit.
And it's funny, like when I look back at those things, it was always writing books. I have books that I made, from the time I was a little kid. So I was always writing and drawing and making my own books. I was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz, like obsessed. I wore ruby slippers around the house and I dressed up as Dorothy every day and I put my hair in braids. And when I think about it, like at its purest level, like I was obsessed with that movie because it was adventure. It was like this
Yes,
girl from the middle of nowhere going on this amazing adventure and seeing new things and meeting new people and learning from the experience. But, ultimately being with the people she loved most in the end, like it it spoke to me for a reason. Like that's still who I am. I am still drawn to
yes,
those exact same things. Dance. I wanted to dance. I used to love Shirley Temple movies. Like I would watch Shirley Temple all day and all night and sing and dance around the house. Like I think that we have to sometimes think about those things of like, what did I really love as a kid? And sometimes reaccessing those things or realizing how they fit into your life now when you didn't ever really make that connection can be a really powerful way to get in touch with what brings you joy and reaccess things that will bring you immeasurable joy that you weren't maybe considering.
that's very true. We almost like disconnect with our little childhood mini-me's that was those adventurous, free-spirited little human beings. Um,
Yeah.
which is very sad. And the great thing, like with you being surrounded by lots of kids with all your nieces and nephews, you get to experience life again through their eyes. So it's a bit like that little young Yulette coming through again, which is very exciting.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. And it allows it gives you the opportunity to look at the world that way and to be a kid again for a bit, because
Yes.
you can do things in the adult world in the presence of a kid that you can't do on your I mean, you can. You might get some weird looks, but when my nephew's here, for example, I can run around Paris acting like a T-Rex with him, arms out and roaring and going down the street like that or walking through the park
Yes.
like that. And everyone's like, "Oh, how cute.
How
That
cute.
woman is with that little child." Where if I was doing that on my own, someone would be like, "You need to call the police.
um,
There's a deranged woman
call
running through the."
someone.
But it's sad in a way. It's like, why can't we still
Yes.
play and be silly and just act like a T-Rex if we want to as full-blown adults? What stops us? Why does it make us weird? Why does it
I
make us
know.
crazy? Why does it make us immature? Why can't we be normal, logical, mature adults who just from time to time want to act like a dinosaur if that's what we're feeling? It's interesting. But no, maybe that's why I love spending time with all the kids. Is like I get to be a kid again without having to explain myself to the adults around me.
I know. That's the best part about being surrounded by, especially family, nieces and nephews. So you are literally, I must say, you are the perfect example of a ball of sunshine. Such a positive and true person. And there's no sense of fakeness or falseness when we go onto your stories or onto your posts, which I like because I feel like the whole world, they're giving us this misperception of what real life is all about. And this is what you get. You cry when things are tough, life is tough, you become vulnerable. And I love that. And it just sometimes you look at someone like you and you wonder how the hell do you face negative criticism and comments? Like, how does that, obviously it does phase you in a way, but how do you protect your mental little wellness health bubble with the terrible things going up and like the people, the bullies out there?
I know this might sound crazy or unrealistic, but like I don't pay attention to it at all. I don't read it. I don't uh and I it's not that I don't listen. Like obviously if someone is saying
Yes,
it to my face, then I have to listen, but it's very rare someone saying it to your face, right? They're usually saying it in the safety of anonymity or behind your back or something. Um I think that it just, to me, it's like I'm very choosy about who I take critique from, right? Like certainly if I don't know you, then what do I care what you think, right? Because I don't know you and you don't know me.
yes,
So you're basing your opinion off of your own insecurities, right? What we project on someone else is such a reflection of how we feel about ourselves or about our lives. Anytime I go to a place of critique and of someone I don't know or don't know that well, I immediately check myself and I'm like, why was that just my
wait a
reaction?
minute.
Like why was my reaction like to say something nasty about that person, just to myself in my own head. You flip through Instagram, you see something and you're like, ugh. And then I'll check myself right away and I'll be like, why was that my reaction? What's the real cause of this reaction? Am I in a way jealous of this person? Am I, what is this triggering? And
Exactly.
that's the thing. It's always about me. It's not about them. It's about me and some insecurity I have, or something I haven't figured out, or something I wish I had that that person appears to. And I think maybe that's why what anybody else says about me truly doesn't, the critique doesn't
Praise
matter.
you.
Because unless it's coming from someone who I genuinely know has my best interest in mind, who knows my heart and knows my soul, and it's my mom or dad saying to me, honey, I want to give you some constructive criticism because I see this and I want to make sure that this and this is okay and that this is happening. that I'm going to take to heart, and it's going to affect me to my core. But some random person I don't know who's following me
Yes,
on the internet and talking trash about how I live my life, like, have a ball spending your time that way if that's what you want to do. I would never spend my time that way. And when I go when that action, when that's triggered, when something negative is triggered, it makes me just want to heal whatever part of me had a negative reaction. Why am I jealous? Why did I just get disgusted? Why did I think that was, what do I need to fix in me so that I don't react that way? Because this is about me, not about them.
true. That's very true. And I must say, if anyone ever comes up to me in person and says something negative about me, I'll probably give them a hug because I'll be like, well done, you've got some balls. Like, thanks for not being what do they call those? A bully behind the screen. There's a word for them, they call them. And because it's just like I'm sad for I'm sad for the world sometimes when I read some of the comments and I'm like, holy crap, your mom and dad really didn't love you enough.
It is sometimes too. I very rarely read comments on anything, but if I, especially like other people's posts, I'll have to read them on my own because I have to,
Yes,
respond, and if there's questions. But if I'll like go into someone else's post for whatever reason, I am always mind boggled. It could be the most, it could be someone just walking their dog through a park is what the post is, and for 1,000 people in that comment section, they have something negative to say about it.
I know.
And there's fights that break out, and there's people saying awful stuff about each other, and you're like, a who has the time? Like, I spend every day just like wishing I had more hours, right, to devote to some kind of hobby, some kind of passion, some kind of work, calling someone that I love and care about, meeting up with a friend, checking in on something, spending more time with my boyfriend. I would never waste 5 seconds of my day getting into a fight in the comments section, saying
With a
nasty things
stranger.
I don't know about something I have no idea what it's actually about. And so it, like, my mind is just always like, who is doing this? And I think that's all the more reason why whatever they're saying doesn't matter to me, because it's just very clear to me from the get-go of like,
Yes,
we have very different ideas about what is worthwhile and how to spend our time, and if we have various different ideas about those two things, then chances are we're not two people that are seeing eye to eye anyway, so I don't really care if you hate me. Go ahead.
exactly.
I'm gonna keep
To,
doing me.
to
Focus.
everyone listening, so it's a waste. So
I
don't.
don't wish you anything bad. I mean, I think that's the other thing. I know some people like really like get into it, and then they will spend their time deflecting these comments and saying nasty things back, and I'm like, I don't care
No,
to
it's not
even
worth it. I just,
respond. I really don't. I have better things to do.
no, exactly. I actually just delete mean comments. I'm like, I don't even want that energy around my stuff. So
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't even, people say like, "Oh, you can block." Like, I don't even I don't
I don't
care
know how
enough
to
to
block it, I think. So
go down that hole and block it. And like, chances are, if they're really devoted, they're just gonna make another profile. Like, it's not worth it to me. Like, I always do feel too like someone posts some mean nasty thing, like we said before, like, that's a reflection of them. It's not a reflection on you. And it's so
but
apparent. Like, when I read, if you do read through anything and you see all this nasty stuff, my head never starts thinking bad things about whoever posted it. It goes right to, who is this person and who would do this and who would spend their time this way? Even if you feel this is not a good use of your time.
it just shows you how very secure in yourself you are, which is already like you can give yourself a tap on the back because well done. Your parents raised you very well. So
Well, I do have an amazing mom and dad. I think that has a huge thing to, obviously your parents shape you, but it's also just it's work. It's a going
Yes.
through something that teaches you, when I got into my divorce, I was just like, I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I don't care,
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody thinks about what I do next. I don't care what this person thinks. I don't care what their family thinks. Like, I spent so long so concerned what everybody thought that I was just like, I felt free from it. And then you just realize it doesn't matter, right? Like, I spent so long trying to please everyone. And in the end, it didn't
Yes.
matter. And so you really just realize this is not something I need to be concerned about, other people's perception of me. What's important is that I know me. And in order to get to know you, you have to do the work. You have to spend a lot of time soul searching and figuring it out and digging. I mean, I love therapy. I went to therapy for so long. I say it like it
Oh,
saved my
me
life.
too.
I still go, it's and a lot of people can't because they can't actually face it. They can't
Yes.
face the difficult conversations about themselves. They can't face the the soul searching and the digging and the bringing up things, and that takes immense courage. And it's always striking to me when someone says like, oh, you're in therapy because you're weak. You're not in therapy because you're weak. You're in
No,
therapy because you're
because you're
insanely strong.
strong.
You're wanting to get stronger, like you are aware of this complicated thing called life and relationships is going to take some practice and some workshops and some homework, and how can I make sure I'm doing that? And it's actively trying to work at who you are, how you treat yourself, how you treat others, what you're putting out into the world, and how what the world is giving you is affecting you and shaping you. That takes work every single day, and a lot of people
Yes.
don't do that. And chances are those are the people who are making the
Need it
comments
the
that are
most.
work, because it's a lot easier to judge and to make comments than it is to do the work.
Oh, 100%. No, I know myself very well. And when I have those warning triggers popping up, I'm like, instantly message my therapist. I'm like, can we please have a session? I've got something that I need to work through, obviously. Don't know what it is yet, but something happened and I need to work on it. It's
Yeah.
ever evolving, growing, like adulthood is tough, you guys, like insanely tough. So
And I think
I,
it's hard. We're under the illusion that like we grow up and then it's all easy, and like
well, I
actually
know.
just think about how much more complicated life gets every year. uh
I think
it's it's
we should all
continuous
get a little
growth is
manual
continuous.
about, sorry, continuous growth. Yes, continuous growth. And we should all get a little manual when we leave school to say, listen, yeah, adulthood is not for sissies, and you should really have some hair on your teeth to make it, because especially if you want to be a decent adult. Um, so yes, I know you've been hinting at writing another book, or not hinting, you are straightforward telling us you're writing a book. So, but I'm like, oh, hinting, or no,
I think
you don't ever.
I think thing comes in as to like I'm still not 100% sure what that book is. Um, and I just mean what I know what I'm writing. Like I know what the like what the meat of it,
Direction.
like uh it's just that I don't yet fully know how it's going to all like be shaped and essentially like packaged in the end. Like I have been working on writing. I write always, so there's lots of words and thoughts and what it is, but figuring out, okay, then how do we make that into a book, and what that book is
Mm.
its own. It happened with my own magic as
Yes.
well. The book was, I wrote and wrote, and I was writing that before I knew I had a book deal. I was just writing and then kept writing and didn't even really pay attention to the fact that my contract said, you know, about 300 and something pages max. And I wrote over 800 pages of story because I just had to get it out. And then you had
Yes.
to go back and really figure out, okay, there's a lot of writing here. There's a lot of, it's everything that happened. It's everything I felt. but what is the actual story that we need to tell, and what, to shape it exactly how it needs to be shaped and formed so that it can be packaged and be a full, perfect thought. Um, and I'm still in phase of just like, I'm just kind of like writing and writing and
You
writing, and
just,
I'm not really sure yet 100% how it's going to be packaged and delivered yet, but the content is there, and that's what's the most important part to me, because that has to be the most important part to you.
yes,
A
no,
lot of
you need to love.
what can I sell next? Even when you approach a second book or another project anytime, it's always like, so what are you going to do now? What's going to be the next product? And my brain really doesn't work like that. Like, my brain is more like, here's what I need to express next. So let me just get it all down on paper. And then we're going to figure out how to shape it. And someone else's area of expertise is the marketing and the selling, right? Like,
Yes.
it's not my step one. It's the final step of like, okay, so now that I've done all of this, how do we get it out there? But I'm still in that phase of like just finishing getting it all out.
I'm super excited to read it, whether it's next year or in the next 10 years, I don't care, as long as we know there's another book coming. So I
There you
always end all the episodes with, I want to know your 3 timeless tips that you want to give to everyone listening. Any tips that you live by and swear by.
Ooh, timeless tips. I think, like we were saying earlier, trust your gut. There couldn't
Yes,
be a better than like get to know your gut and then trust it. Turn that volume up and trust it. Um, Challenge yourself. Always don't ever just let yourself go through the motions of day to day in life, and not be doing something that actively challenges who you are, and where you're heading, and what you know and love and are learning.
I love
um
that one.
and a third timeless tip, I would say, learn when to say no, and when to say yes. Set up your boundaries so that you are become very comfortable with saying no when your gut tells you need to say no,
Yes,
that you understand that that's the best and most important way to honor yourself and who you are. But then also, don't let fear stop you from saying yes to new things and new adventures and new people, and give that yes with excitement. Even if the fear and hesitation is there, don't be afraid to say yes to new things.
oh, and sunset or sunrise.
I am more of a sunset person. It's much more likely that I'm going to
So
catch the sunset.
I want to say that speaking to you over the last few months, I've realized that you're more sunset, but I just wanted to
I
confirm.
really like both. The fun thing is a sunrise is like a rarity. I'm like, oh wow, I'm awake for sunrise. It feels very special, and I love it. But I think there's something really nice about, especially because kind of no matter what kind of day has unfolded, how hectic it's been or how amazing it's been, like that's a beautiful sunset is either that like peace you needed and that like reminder that it can all end beautifully no matter what, or it can just be like this icing on the cake to an already spectacular day. But like either way, it's a great it's always like a beautiful thing to look forward to. Like it's never going to fail you. It's always there and just reminds you
Yes.
like, okay, despite the good and the
Okay.
bad, there's always this
So
moment.
if you can go on it with anyone, a sunset walk wherever, anyone, who would it be?
Like tonight.
When tonight. If anyone, dead or alive, can come with you on a
Like
walk.
one person, I was like, my whole family is what popped into my head. I was like, I just want to go on a walk with my whole
Perfect.
family. I want
All
to take
right.
my whole family on a sunset walk tonight. I have my I have this for a digital frame, and it just has all pictures of my mom and dad, and it's playing
Yes.
in the back. So the first thing that popped into my head was just, I'd love to go on a walk with my mom and dad tonight.
Oh, okay. I love that. And I love how many people actually say either their significant others or their families, which is, it shows me that society, when, as human race, we're moving in the right direction. We don't care about going on walks with
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe's anymore. It's all about family and unity,
Just
which is great.
never have enough time with the people you love.
That's true. We don't have enough time with the people we love. But thank you so much, Anna. I love chatting to you and just chatting about my own magic. And it was really special getting to know you a little bit better. And yeah, you're an amazing person. Don't change. Uh, yeah, keep making magic wherever you go.
Thank you so